Hello, and welcome back to the Programming in Ninox Learning Series. In previous classes, we've looked at embedded view objects, dynamic choice and multiple choice fields, and a variety of functions that we can apply to transform, manipulate, and summarize groups of records in our database. What all of those items have in common is they rely on the select statement for operation. The select statement is one of the most often used statements and one that will be part of every database you probably will build. In this class, we're going to look at the select statement, some of its options, and a few of the considerations you're going to want to make when designing your database and your select operations. Let's start by looking at the select function itself. The select function is the keyword select in all lowercase, followed immediately by the name of the table that contains the records from which your group or selection will come. Remember from class 125 that a selection of records and the result of this statement is an array. We'll talk a little bit more about arrays in a moment, but when we talk about a group of records or an array of records or a selection of records, we're talking about the same thing. After selecting a specific table and defining the records from that table you wish to extract, we then define a single field, or we can concatenate multiple fields in that table that are going to be displayed within the formula that is the select statement. And we see that right here. We have selected the products table, we have selected the product SKU field, and here we see a comma-separated text list of all of the SKUs of all of the products in that table. We have all of the products because we applied no filter, and we have the SKUs appearing in the order in which the records were entered into the table according to their Ninox assigned ID number. Compare that to this selection statement. Here we see the same selection of product, and this is going to result in all of the records in the product table being selected to our array, but we then see the order by clause, which specifies that this selection of records and the contents of this field in those records is going to be displayed in ascending order according to that field, the product SKU field. The field that you use to define the presentation sequence or order and the field that you select as the display field do not need to be the same field. And keep in mind the order by statement will always go in ascending order from 0 to 9, from A to Z. Remember from class 120, we studied dynamic choice and dynamic multiple choice fields. These objects also rely on the select statement. Here we see that we want to select all of the records in the customer table, and we want them presented alphabetically by customer name. But you will note that we do not specifically identify a field to be the contents of our display. When working with the dynamic choice fields, we can do that using the dynamic value field here. But it's important to note that these dynamic choice fields will rely on a select statement or a direct reference. If you can use the direct reference, that's always better than the select statement because it will deliver significantly better performance. Then we get into the functions. Remember, we can apply any variety of textual and numeric functions to fields in selections of records. Here we see that we are selecting all of the transaction records in the transaction table. And out of all of those records, we want to take the numeric values in the transaction amount field and apply this formula. Even though we have selected all of the records in the table, this formula will return a single value, which is the additive sum total of all of the numeric values in this field for all of these records. And we see that right here. Select statements were also critical to our use of the for structure, where we wanted to apply an operation repeatedly to all of the records or a selected group of records within a table. Here we have a button that, when clicked, is going to give us the option to select all of the records in the transaction table and either assign them free shipping or overnight shipping. The for structure says, here is our selection, this is our array. We want to apply this repeated function to each record one at a time in this selection of records. The variable I, which is created using the for structure, will contain the reference to the array and the reference to the individual records in that array as we cycle through the for statement. A select statement can be a clause or condition in an if-then, for-do, or while-do structure. And filtering and setting the sequence order with the order by clause will work if that's appropriate for your repeating or looping structure. And then we have embedded views. Here we see an embedded view in this form that is showing us all records selected in the transaction table where the transaction date is the 4th month of the year. This where filter is enabling Ninox to extract all of the records in the table and then filter out the records that do not meet this criteria and send us the remaining array from the server to our client workstation. It's important to note that the where filtering clause in the select statement is 100% server-side operation, which is to say, the array is selected at the server, and the filtering is done by the server, and only the results of the filtered selection are returned to us. Compare that to this client-side filter. Again, we begin by selecting all of the records in the transaction table, and this will be done at the server. All of those records, the entire array, will then be delivered to the client workstation. And once delivered to the client workstation, this compound filter, consisting of a filter by month and a filter by minimum transaction amount, will be applied. It's important to note that this form of the select statement is going to result in a much larger data package being delivered from the server through your internet connection to your client workstation, because you're going to have to receive all of the records in the table. Then, on your workstation, you will apply this compound filter. This usually is going to result in slower system performance because you have a much larger package being delivered and the filtering is being done on the client side where you probably don't have quite as much RAM and maybe not as powerful a motherboard as one has on the Ninox server. Because of this, it's always preferable to use the where clause, which will result in all of your array and all of your filtering happening server side, and then only the results, that smaller package, being delivered via your internet connection to the client-side workstation. Now here we are at our transaction screen, and I'm going to enter a transaction line item. We will select a product, and then we have this drop-down dynamic choice field that will display for us all of the serial numbers of this particular product. A dynamic choice field can use a select statement to produce or define the dynamic values that are going to appear in that choice field. But remember, a direct connect is always faster than a select statement. In a situation like this, where I can directly select or point directly to a field in a referenced or connected table, I'm going to use that option to populate my dynamic object, because this is going to be significantly faster in performance and throughput than a select statement where we are requesting Ninox simply select all of the records in a table. Select statements are great and they have their place, but when given the option, run them server side, filter them to reduce the size of the packet that's going to be delivered, and if possible, use a direct connect or a direct reference instead of the select statement. And one final note, the direct reference can always replace a select statement, whether it's in a for-do loop, a dynamic choice field, or even an embedded view. The select statement, as I said, is a tremendously powerful tool, and you'll probably use it in just about every Ninox database you're going to build. But use it correctly, use the proper options, and you'll get great performance and a very sophisticated technology solution. I'll see you in the next class. Visit us at www.nioxis.com. Here you can learn about different Ninox solutions. You can get tech support through our Ninox help desk, which is available 7 days a week, or you can schedule private one-on-one concierge sessions for training, or we can help you build your application. And if you haven't done so already, sign up for our free Ninox Learning Lab. We do this every Thursday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. in the UK, 6 p.m. Central European Time. These free hour-long sessions enable you to learn more about Ninox, features, functions, and solutions. We have open Q&A where you can get answers to all your Ninox questions, and you can meet other members of the global Ninox community. We look forward to seeing you there.